Amanda with heArt Studios. Thanks again for tuning in on yet another episode of Stories of the Heart. We have two of my nearest and dearest friends. I can't wait to get more in depth with their stories, Ryan and Nic. But before we do, if you're out there watching and you don't know what heArt Studios is, I'm the founder. It's a newly launched organization here in Nashville, and we exist to break the generational cycles of abuse and trauma by transforming the heart through creative expression. We do so by partnering with different artists or professionals in the creative field to walk with youth that have been impacted by domestic violence and trauma, and just share their artistic journeys with them to really mentor and empower our youth to change their futures for the better. Friends, Ryan and Nic come to us all the way from Chicago. They left us in Nashville and moved on up to Chicago, where they are now just diving into the arts industry and really killing it. What started as sort of a pivot during the pandemic, as most of us had, they took on and really just ran with it. They started a podcast called Pop Music for Smart People, and Ryan has just taken it, and it's really grown legs over the last couple months, whereas Nic decided he wanted to wallpaper the house during the pandemic. Isn't that what most of us did? And you decided it was just too expensive, so did it on your own and decided to start a mural business. I don't even know how y'all do it, but I'm impressed, but I'd love to hear more.
Well, I mean, the thing is that I have champagne taste, and at that moment, we had beer budget when we were, lost our jobs. And so, of course, I was on Etsy. It's not like I was on, the dollar store website, and wanted this wallpaper that just for one wall was just too expensive for our budget. So I remember saying to Ryan, I'm going to get some black and white paint, and I mean, what the hell else do I have to do? So,
and I remember my initial reaction being like, I've never seen you paint before. So I was very nervous.
I've never seen me paint before. So.
So let me get this straight. You decided just to take it on yourself to buy paintbrushes, stencil, or did you just freehand?
Freehand everything.
And you had never painted before?
I don't go a little bit. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do the whole damn thing. So it was like stencils weren't an option. And I just decided I was going to what's the worst that can happen? I just paint it back over because I don't like it, right? So I bought a bucket of white paint, a bucket of black paint, and paintbrushes, which I had no idea which ones I needed. And
it came together. I remember the whole process just being like, I don't know. Wait a minute. It was like one of those where every day I was like, oh my gosh, it's like coming together. And then I actually won't forget there's a leaf in it that he did. And I remember he finished it and I was like, that looks like a Monstera leaf. It looks 3D. And I remember just being like, oh my gosh, you're doing it. So
you're doing it. And we'll do a big reveal at the end so they can see what we're talking about, because obviously you're sitting in front of a pretty incredible.
Yeah, we're not
I wonder who that's from. And Ryan, how did you get started with the podcast world? Because I know you were in the hospitality industry for long before that, and that's just a different environment altogether.
So I actually stayed in my job a little bit longer than he did. And we both worked in the restaurant industry and were laid off, when all this started. So I stayed in a little longer and got furloughed with my job. And then eventually they, just decided that the position that they just couldn't bring back those people. So for a good part of the pandemic and quarantine, I really was just, I was like, I'm gonna enjoy my time off and, I'll just go back into the restaurant industry. And he had actually gotten the equipment to do a podcast.
At the same time that I bought the paint, I bought a podcast
yeah,
microphone because I needed a hobby and didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah, he was one of those who had to jump into everything. I was kind of like, I'm just gonna weather the storm and, take this time to kind of chill out and reflect. And so yeah, it wasn't initially even my thought to do it. And then he, the mural business really took off for him. And I remember one day he came to me and he was like, I think you should do the podcast. And even then I was like, I don't know. I don't like hearing my voice recorded. I just was trying to make up all these things. And then finally one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a go. I had friends, at that point I was diving pretty deep into music. And so I had friends calling me being like, send us a playlist or, what artists are you listening to now? Cause I was just constantly, kind of shuffling out new artists that I was listening to. And so, yeah, based on that, I just was like, I'm going to do it. And I put it together and yeah.
And all of a sudden, 3.5 months later, he just had episode 14 or something like that. I can't believe it's been 3.5 months.
It's crazy.
That's fantastic. What is the podcast about?
So the podcast is Pop Music for Smart People. I feature each episode 2 to 3 artists that I'm currently listening to or that I'm very much so into. But every episode is based on something from my life. So how me and my friends listen to music, terms I've used, in my life to describe music, my family, events, just really all over the place. But there's a central theme for each episode, even if it really only makes sense to me. And then those artists that I feature are connected to that in some way. So my first episode was artists that made 2020 a little less of a dumpster fire, because I felt like everybody could kind of relate to that, So yeah, I featured 2 artists, This White and Yeji, who just kind of helped me get through the year with their music. And since then, I've done all different kinds of episodes. 2 episodes ago, we featured this guy's music. So Nic Opp Pop was the name of that one, which is a very
specific genre,
yeah. And then this week I did kind of the antithesis of that, which was "Babe, can you turn that down, please?" And I featured artists that he tells me to turn down all the time, because I like to turn the music up really loud. So yeah, but
having been just a friend of yours for a really long time, I could just sit and listen to you one forever, because your stories are hilarious and your laugh is super infectious. And so for all of you that are tuning in, you need to go and subscribe to the podcast, because Ryan's voice is just one of those that'll carry you through, and you'll be in fits of laughter the entire time.
To get over it myself, but yeah, now that I'm there, I'm like, okay.
He was actually in Nashville when the first episode came out, and I remember the best possible review that I could have given him. I texted him and I said, "Babe, I'm not even a little bit embarrassed."
Yeah. I was like, okay,
it was great. It was fantastic.
Well, and so likewise with you then, Nic, I mean, you just took this on as let's get through the pandemic. Let's pick up a paintbrush. I need a hobby. I don't know what I want to do, but maybe we can do this. And for those people out there that did the pandemic thing and they're like, yeah, I really should, maybe I'm going to learn to cook, or maybe I'm going to learn karate, or maybe I'll pick up a paintbrush and start painting. I feel like there was maybe a 30% chance that those people really actually went with it. You not only went with it, you're making a career out of it.
It's a business, yeah.
I mean, that wasn't really the plan. I'm not good with idle hands. I love working. And when I was faced with being inside this space, kind of quasi indefinitely, I was like, what can I do? So kind of did a makeshift recover of my couch. I tried to make a lampshade. I painted the hallway. I learned to paint murals, but I mean, it was really only meant to be this. And then I, still obviously needed the money. And I had a really nice friend who's actually from Nashville, living in Chicago, who called me up and said, do you want to try one in our bedroom? And I was like, oh, wait, yes, maybe this could be a thing. So, I mean, I wasn't planning to make it a business. It just kind of happened. I'm super lucky that way.
Just organically got there. And what started off as just one small commission is now turned into quite a bit. And you're like,
and I'm so grateful for my friends and family. Obviously, it's all word of mouth until you get a presence on social media, which, is kind of a slow climb. So it was really up to everybody just being like, hey, do you want to try this? Until, I got to build a portfolio online. So I'm really grateful for everybody who supported me too.
I mean, but the big job that he got was our upstairs neighbor. She works for a design firm, and we were literally just talking to her one day, and she was like, oh yeah, I work for this design firm, and give me your info. And we did. And then she called a couple weeks later and was like, I have this commercial job for you. And that was the first commercial one he did. And then since then has done several.
You just never know where you're going to find
so
it.
You never know, but what's really cool and really specific is that you guys were very just open to where your world was going to take you. You didn't dig in your heels. I don't feel like either of you pouted about it. You were just like, okay, this is the world. This is what we're in. And instead of getting, super upset and down and out, you guys really took a turn and pivoted your lives. And now you just beam happiness. And I can see it in both of you. And Ryan, you're always talking about music. So I know that that's been part of your life for as long as you've been, since you were born, let's be honest, with your parents.
No, it's weird that I never thought really about it for myself. And that's kind of what's been really cool to me in this whole scenario is that for him and his mural business, he never really thought it was going to turn into a business. And I kind of he was like, maybe you help me with the business side of things. So I really kind of took over, and I still do. I do all of his, all the bookings, all the contracts, stuff like that. And then with the podcast, I was kind of on the fence of I don't like my voice, and I'm nervous about, the production of it. And
so he kind of started producing
in. Yeah. So it's funny. We're both very connected with each other's things, but we each shine in those arenas, which is cool. And it makes me happy. It does.
Yeah. And like you said, we didn't dig in our heels, but I mean, that's a choice that you make. You either have a choice to, you know, like you said, kind of pout about it, or you accept that this is reality and that there's some things that are beyond your reach and that you try to make the best of it. And sometimes making the best of it is things that you wouldn't have even imagined. And
Yeah.
I can't imagine not painting now. It does. The arts gives me such
1000%.
happiness. Yeah.
Well, and that's what I want to ask you, because there's a world out there of artists who have had it in their blood since they were little. They've been doing it, or they've been pursuing it, or they've really been trying to make a career out of it for a really long time. And when I've been asking them sort of about their stories, the sort of common thread or common denominator in a lot of people's stories is, I've been doing it forever. I didn't know I could make a career out of it. But it's because of their passion that's carried them through those ups and downs and those struggles to get to where they are today. And I would love to know, I mean, being such a new artist by trade, because you are now an artist by trade, what's keeping you in it? What's making you so passionate to pick up that paintbrush every day?
Oh, I mean, I think one thing that kind of really hit me is, you know, I am a shaky person. You know, I'm constantly thinking about other things. My hands have never really been steady. You know, I'm always observing everything. I'm never flatlined ever. I'm always kind of, and I realized that when I was painting, my hands didn't shake and I wasn't really thinking of anything else. And then all of a sudden 6 hours would go by. And it was kind of started as kind of my meditation time. And then I realized that it was maybe something in my life that I was missing, was using the right side of my brain, because I had been managing and in business for so long. And I grew up playing piano. I'm a classically trained pianist since I was 4 years old. And so I had that right part of my brain stimulated for the major part of my life. And I don't think I realized how starved my body was of it. Yeah. So now, you know, it does give me a sense of happiness and it makes me feel kind of complete, but I think it's all about balance, and that creativity is something I think that everybody has the opportunity to do in some form, you know.
He's very hard on himself too. Like, it's just, you know, it's just who he is as a person. So even doing the murals, you know, he'll go through so many stages in doing a mural where, you know, like the middle of it, he's like, you know, I hate it. It's like it's not going to work out. Like, you know, like, I don't know what I'm doing. And we'll get it there. And then all of a sudden it's like he creates this beautiful thing. And I think for him too, another big key component of it that makes him happy is the people's reactions, you know, at the end, where they're just like, they're like looking at it like, you made this for me. It's like, this is like one of a kind, and you did this. And it's like, I'll never, you know, like, like you can't buy that.
I know how much happiness it gave me to like wake up in the morning and see this wall where it used to be a blank wall. And now, like, collaborating with people and getting kind of inside their brains to see like what ideas they have and make it personal to them. It gives them the same happiness as buying a piece of art or listening to a piece of music or something like that. And it's something that they get to wake up to that's personal to them every day. So that gives me a lot of joy.
Same.
100%. And I found myself really being able to resonate with people's stories about why it makes them passionate. And when you're saying it really taps into the right side of your brain when you've been starved for so long. That's a big goal of ours at the studio, to work with youth that have been impacted by trauma in some way, shape, or form, whether it be domestic violence in their homes or, gosh, even going through the pandemic and, you know, veering on a life of depression. We want to be able to be a safe space for them to come to really tap into that right side of their brain, because yeah, we are all made with it. We all have that side of our brain, but unfortunately, society pushes us more on the logistical, technical, societal approach to what we're supposed to be doing, or these plans that we're supposed to be doing. Yeah, that art, that's a hobby, but let's not really, you know, encourage it. We want to encourage it. There's a huge demographic that will not be able to find traditional therapeutic approaches helpful because they're not able to really speak out what they're feeling so deep inside. But through the arts, through picking up a paintbrush or speaking into a podcast or writing the song for the podcast, you know, performing, that's where they're able to share their story. And so that's our main mission at the studio, is to be able to empower them to share their stories in a safe space, but also walk with them in a long enough journey where they're able to be like, oh, wait, I'm really good at this. Can I make this to be a career? And we're like, yeah,
you can. Yeah. I actually look at myself and I've never even thought, like, you know, of myself as needing like some therapeutic thing. Like I did realize that I was working at restaurants, my whole life. And I just did it. It was my job. And I came home and I listened to music and stuff like that. But now doing this and realizing that can be my, my path going forward. It's like, it's even in me really something where I'm just like, whoa, like what have I, why have I never like thought to just like do this? I've just always been like, nope, this is what I have to do. This is my job. I've got to go do this. And like, I've had, you've known me for years. I've danced. I love music. It's been a very integral part of my life, but I never thought that it could be, as easy as rewarding as it has been, like I've talked to 4 artists that I'm like obsessed with, and I've talked to them and I've asked them about their art. Like it's pretty mind blowing to me, that's happened in such a short time.
And I think we don't realize, like sometimes, for example, the restaurant industry or whatever your job or industry is, that, when you've been doing it for so long, sometimes we kind of put up those defense mechanisms that don't let us realize like what it actually is that is bothering us maybe about it. And I mean, let's be honest, when you're managing a restaurant, you're kind of serving, strangers with low blood sugar, and that's basically it. And the F&B industry puts up with a lot. They do. And it's
they
just
don't call it hangry for nothing.
Exactly. And you just kind of put these walls up and you kind of deal with it. And then, when you're actually doing something like this and using the right side of your brain, like you said, it doesn't feel like therapy, but all of a sudden your mind is kind of turning and mulling over, and it's almost like a meditation. And your brain goes different places. The memories I have or some of the thought wanders that I have while I paint is just like, ooh, I could make some movies, make some cinema.
Okay. Let's hope that another pandemic doesn't have to happen for you to make
no.
But through all of this, Ryan, you just got to say that you're like speaking to some of your favorite artists and being able to talk to them. What ways have you been able to find yourself using this as one of your outlets, really? Because being stuck in home for a year is not all that healthy.
Well, yeah, and for me, so at the beginning of this, I really, I was actually more worried about him because I was like, I
like to be busy.
Yeah, he likes to be busy, and I wanted him to. And for me, I was thinking like, I always keep myself fine. I always keep myself positive. I always keep myself happy. And really, like about halfway through, I started to realize that it was taking a toll on me because I need that social interaction. It's just who I am as a human. I like to be out. I like to be with friends. I like to be with, my family. Like we
meet new people.
Like, and so really halfway through, I really started to see that like, it was actually me that was being pretty affected. And I hit a little bit of a down point at one point where, he doesn't see me down very often, but I just like kind of looked at him and was like, I'm depressed a little bit because this is like, what's happening. And there was no view of when things were going to open and that kind of stuff. So this podcast has done a lot for me. It's made me, one, realize that I could do something that, I've always been passionate about. And the fact that I now can sit across from an artist that, if you had asked me a year ago, are you going to talk to one of these artists that you listen to about, their music careers and their lives? I would have been like, no, how could I even do that? And I literally started this podcast and I just DM'd them and I said, hi, I'm passionate about music. It's been a really cool, like rewarding experience. Like I remember my first interview was with an artist named Noga Erez, who we're just really obsessed with. And she's
going to be on Jimmy Kimmel.
Oh yeah, she literally was on my podcast, and now a couple weeks later she's going to be on Jimmy Kimmel. It's like
that's fun.
Yeah,
cool, right? That's cool.
So and her management team like literally reached out to me. They were like, I remember getting the call and they were like, Noga heard your podcast. She really loved it, and I'm sitting there like on the phone like speechless, like, this is a prank call. Like, this cannot be real. But sitting there across from her and talking to her, and interviewing her, it was just like, this is awesome. And she recognized that in me and my passion for her music and how I talked about it. So that really was like validating for me. And
I really can't wait to see it unfold. And already I'm so excited to tune in. And that's, you said something really monumental for me, is that you're a social person and you need to have that interaction in the same way. And I think that's why I am so passionate about what I'm doing with the studio. And that's to give kids that same outlet and that same socialization, because our goal is to have different outlets of the creative realm or of all the creative genres under one roof. So what is a photography, film studio could be next to the music recording studio, which is next to the art studio, next to the dance studio, and so on and so forth. And they're able to walk in and out of these studios at their free will, because maybe music resonates with someone, but it doesn't resonate with somebody else, but that person wants to dance. And so those two can collab on a project, and you know, it's all encompassing, and then be
Or
able
maybe
to
the music person realized that they want to dance and they're really good at it too.
Yeah,
that's you. And that is what, like, so like you, Nick, that's our whole point, is like, maybe we can just encourage them, or, you know, itch that scratch, or scratch that itch. However you say that. Do you scratch an itch, or do you itch a scratch?
Well, I did want to say too, like like you would think, like I was saying, I want to be a social person, and you know, I miss those things, and people would be like, well, a podcast, you're just like sitting, you know, in this little room recording. But really what it's done is it's opened up this network. You know, it's like now I have listeners that, you know, that are talking to me, and we're talking about music, and I'm sending them things, and I'm talking to artists, and you know, they're sharing my stuff. And it's like, I mean, my interviews so far have been with an artist in Israel, an artist in Melbourne, Australia, an artist in Los Angeles. So I mean, it's like, you know, it's really opened up this like world for me. And
right. And Nick, you're saying, I love that you said, you know, you get to work now with people, and you're able to help their visions and their dreams come to life. And that's part of the, you know, the thing that gives you so much joy and fills you up and allows you to wake up every day. And are there other moments when you can just feel like, it might sound selfish a little bit, but I don't think that giving back is selfish. I think that you're supposed to give back to get back. And are there moments when you realize, like, I'm doing this and I'm really giving back?
I mean, I think with our group of friends, like we did a mural in Nashville at our friend Jesse's house. And she just had this like half basement that was basically like a giant room that was a pass through to her laundry room. Like, it never had a purpose. It had boxes in the corner and carpet, and that was it. And what started off that was supposed to be a flower mural turned into like this scene that had all of these hidden Easter egg private jokes with their friends, and representations of us as people in a specific scenario that they would find funny. And it's a giant wall. And much to my protest, she had a mural reveal party, which ended up being really sweet. I just don't like the spot. I was like sitting down in the back when everybody was clapping, but it was a really sweet moment. And what happened is they moved all the band equipment to the half basement downstairs, and everybody had jam sessions for days, and giving that room a purpose and seeing how personal it was to all of our friends, and seeing everybody jam down there, and how much joy it brought them on so many levels. That was cool. That was very
completely transformed a space, and people are like have community around it. And
I mean, that just shows that like music and art, and it's all interconnected. Because, you know, at your studio, if last year you asked me, you know, walk into the studio and pick, I would have gone to music. I would have never gone to, you know, like the fine arts or painting or whatever. So it just shows that like that right side of the brain is connected sometimes. I can't dance worth crap, but you know.
Me neither.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah. You said Easter egg, and I just have to touch on that, because there's going to be people out there that go, he said, what?
Sure.
Tell me what an Easter egg is.
I love putting little personal Easter eggs in people's murals, and they're always just like hidden things that unless you were that person or close to that person, you wouldn't know that it had meaning, you know. So in this mural specific, if you look really close, we were listening to a song called Dorothy by Polo and Pan the entire weekend, which is basically like Wizard of Oz Dorothy. And so in reference to that, all throughout the murals, there's like little references to Wizard of Oz. There's somebody wearing striped stockings, and like a person on the couch is wearing all green, and you know, that kind of thing. So having those little bits that not only bring the person joy when they aesthetically walk into a room and oh, that's my mural, and then they remember all these little memories. So it's like triggers for you know, tiny little happinesses on top of the big happiness, I guess.
The first one that he did.
World out there that might be watching that have zero idea what he's talking about, but really it's in almost all art forms. For me personally, if you find out that there's somebody that does that, it's been fun to watch when they're put in there. And I'm touching on this egg story or Easter egg story, because we think that with being able to share a story, and especially if it's full of trauma, hurt, and pain, kids are going to be less likely to want to share it. And so why can't we write a song around your story, but put little innuendos about what you went through in your story? And one song will lead to the next song, will lead to the next song, and maybe you'll have a record, and in doing so find healing through what you went through. But because of these little
I know.
Some of the best records that I can think of that I've ever listened to in music were born of, a breakup or, like something really pivotal happening in that artist's life. And that's how they got it. That's how they got it out, is they had to write it down in music or paint it.
It's fun to be able to share your story. And I love, you guys have really done that. You've really stepped up. I'm proud of you. Wow.
Like, this is amazing what you're doing. Like, honestly,
I don't think anybody should ever underestimate themselves, and I'm the person that will underestimate themselves,
honestly,
because look at what we've all accomplished, you including Amanda.
I mean, I reached out to you because when I read your whole concept for this thing, it's just like it's beautiful. It's really cool, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. So
absolutely, I appreciate you being a part of it, and I want to just encourage those that are out there that are watching or listening to pick up the paintbrush, or go buy that piece of equipment and start now, because you never know what it's going to be. And these two are great examples of that. But without my advice, because I'm not in your world, what if you could go back to Ryan's 10-year-old self and Nic's 10-year-old self, what would you say? What kind of advice would you give yourself?
I would tell myself to not only enjoy the aspects of my life creatively that I've formed, but also really let those maybe go to a direction that I just always thought that I could never make a career. I could never, there was just always going to be a hobby or a side thing, and so I've kind of convinced myself of that my entire life. And that's why I've been in the restaurant industry my entire life, because I knew I had to make money. But if I had just done that so much, so long ago, I would have told myself just to
take a chance.
Yeah, exactly. And not just feel like, you have to make money this way or do things like this way. It's explore those things that you are really into and passionate about. I've been dancing, like I said, my whole life. I love it, but I never, went and tried to pursue a professional dance career, because I just always in my head was, I make money this way and then I go out and experience that this way. But
those two things can be together.
But just really explore them, and see how they can make you happy and your life happy.
I would tell myself to stop fighting your mother on the piano lessons. It's not going to happen. You're 10, you have 6 more years, but those 12 years will help your brain form in a specific way. I see and hear things differently because my brain kind of formed around music. And having my brain form around there on the right side is something that I really value about myself. And there is so much merit in organization and business. And I love math too. I'm a total math nerd and I'm good at it. But
you hear that, ladies? Math and art. Adam.
But the way that your brain is going to form is going to be something that you're really going to appreciate about yourself. And when you get a little bit older, don't starve that part of your brain, because you won't realize how much you have missed having it.
When you get older, don't starve that part of your brain.
Don't starve that part. Don't starve that part.
Oh, thank you. Gosh, I know you have a huge community out there. So just so you know, we are always looking for artists. So whether they be visual artists or artists behind the microphone or artists out in some creative realm, we're always looking to partner with different artists to come into the studio and teach our youth their unique talents. And so if that's you and you're out there watching, shoot us a DM or email us, and I'll have all of that linked up into the comments. But with that as well, if you're Nashville based and you want just information, feel free to reach out to me personally about heArt Studios. We're currently looking for a space. So we want to be a physical building that our kids can come in and it be their space to come to. So we're fundraising. We're constantly on the ground networking and looking for sponsors and donors. If you are watching and this mission really speaks to your heart and you're in a position to give financially, or you work for a company that is out always in the community, we're constantly looking for different sponsors and donors to come alongside this and just really support this cause. So if that speaks to you, definitely reach out and we will give you specific ways that you can donate or sponsor a studio. Nic and Ryan, I appreciate you so much. I just love your hearts. I love what you stand for. I love what you've been
Me
about.
too. And I want to have you on my podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now
I
that
can't wait.
I've been on yours, you have to come on
And
mine.
I'm gonna paint you like one of my French women.
How about we get you to come down and paint a wall in the studio?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Honestly, Amanda, just call anytime. I would be more than willing anytime to donate my time to your
I
cause.
love it. And again, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your story.
I just now kind of realized in my head that through doing this podcast, I have learned not only, this creative part of myself, but like I've literally like learned how to edit a podcast and do audio. And it's like when I really think about those components, it's like at this point I could teach a podcasting class, and that's like really like it kind of blows my mind a little bit that you give yourself 3 months and you're passionate about something. It's like you can really carve out these like cool avenues for yourself. So
I built a frame. I did some woodworking.
Yeah,
like you never know. Like you never know what you're gonna
Now you guys are just bragging. So
well, just I didn't say it was good, but yeah, no, at least try. I would just say like don't underestimate yourself. Just give it a try.
Yeah.
Don't judge yourself before it's been done. And you know what? After it's done, don't judge yourself. You did something and just accept it and its beauty and whatever it is.
I'm not bragging because our audio is not the most amazing yet, but we're getting there. And anybody can do it.
So Nic is taking us a little bit behind the scenes of the mural he decided to paint by hand after picking up a paintbrush when he wanted to wallpaper, but thought it's a little too expensive. So he went and bought a can of black paint and a can of white paint and a few paintbrushes, and this is what it came out to be. It is absolutely beautiful and incredible.
And man, I want to show you one more really good too, though, because he did, and this kind of connects to the podcast. He also did my logo.
Just plug in the battery in. Wait,
So this is my little podcasting studio here. And he literally painted my, can you see that?
Yeah?
Yep. He painted that on the wall for me. Yeah, this is a little behind the scenes. I just did the soundproofing in here.
Look at you.
Okay. But yeah, so that's something I just wanted to show, just because it's literally the connector of our two things.
It's all of the world coming together, and the fact that you guys have made such an incredible partnership out of it. You are partners before, but now you're business partners too. It's really cool how you really made this work, and I'm really impressed, but also really proud of you both.
Proud of you too. I love you.